What's up, everybody? This week, we're going to be doing a Vulnhub machine called the Kira CTF. Again, that's the Kira CTF. That's Kira CTF. So this is a little bit of an older machine. I think it came out sometime in the late fall of 2020, and it's a fairly simple box. However, it is a good box to kind of play around with and get used to, local file inclusions, and how to, kind of potentially do like some kind of like RCE kind of thing, as well as playing around with like PHP code and doing some just general like privilege escalation to get you more familiar with that. I'm doing this because I'm always big on giving back to the individuals who are beginning their journey in the community, as well as myself. I'm actually doing some prep for a I guess a more beginner friendly web application certification. I'm actually going to sometime in Q1 of 2021 go and take an attempt at the EWPT by eLearn Security, or as it's commonly known as the WAPT. So I'm going to take a crunch at that while I'm also finishing up some dissertation work and some PhD work, as well as, doing all the other crazy things that we do here at Offensive Security Interviews. So yeah. So if you're interested in, getting a entry level view at some cool little things with things that you can do with LFI, also known as local file inclusion, and just some general like geeky, nerdy things, stick around and let's watch the vlog. So here we are in our Kali Linux machine. We're going to go ahead and get started. So I've made my Kali Linux machine and the Kira CTF both on the same network in my VirtualBox instance. So if you're following along, make sure that you do that and you create a NAT network so that they're on the same subnet. It makes it easier. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a new directory and we're going to call it Kira CTF. How about that? And then let's go ahead and go into that directory, clear out our screen, and let's go ahead and we see that we're on this subnet. So we're going to do a quick nmap scan of 10.0.2, and then we'll do the star so that we scan the whole subnet. And we're doing an SN just for a quick no ping scan or no DNS scan. And so we can just find whatever the target IP is really quick. Notice how we just get a bunch of IPs. It looks like this is going to be the IP to target because this is ours. So now let's go ahead and go to the next step. So the next step is to actually run an nmap scan on that. Let's do a service and a safe script scan. There we go. See what we get. And it looks like we have just port 80 open. All right, so that means this is going to be a web box. So the first thing I like to do is I like to run a quick derb scan. Looks like we didn't get much. Run a quick Nicto scan. It doesn't look like Nicto is going to do much for us. So you can use some other tools too. There's plenty of other tools. Like a lot of individuals might want to use GoBuster or DirbBuster. There's a lot of different things you can do. You can even run CVE scripts with Nmap. So, the road is yours to pave it as you want. I'm just doing some quick, simple things to go ahead and get us going. It doesn't look like really anything that's a low-hanging fruit is going to be coming up. So with that being said, let's go ahead and see what we can find. So we're going to go ahead and clear this out. We're going to bring up our browser. Let's go to 10.0.2.8. And as we see, we have an upload and a language button. Interesting. So if we go and inspect the element really quick, we can see that this takes us to this directory, language.php. So if we click on that, we see that it takes us here. It looks like something's going on with our proxy. Let's go to about, preferences, proxy. Oh, it looks like I have it configured for like Burp Suite. Let's try that again. All right, and then we can see here, if you look in the input here, you can see that there's some kind of PHP, and then it has a call for lang to what looks like probably English. So that's interesting. And then notice how it finishes it here with a semicolon. So let's go ahead and see what happens if we click language. So we get that. And notice how it even kind of gives us a hint that it says LFI for local file inclusion. That's pretty interesting. So the first thing I would see is if like we can do something, maybe we can do ID, nothing. All right, so now we can't execute anything there. Nothing there. So now let's see if we can pull a directory. Oops. So if we go dot, we're going back, right? Because it's probably putting us in the www.data directory, if I had to guess right. We need to go back a couple and then go into the etc password or pwd. Password wd, sorry. And as we can see, we get the password file. Interesting. We notice we have this user Basam. All right. That's a user that doesn't really seem to be a generic one. That looks like one that's probably been created. So we have that. So that's kind of cool. So now we know that we have that. Let's see if we can do the shadow file. Highly doubt it. Yeah, we can't do that because the shadow file probably only has limited access by the root user, which, you know, good security there, right? But we'll see what we can do once we're actually trying to get on the machine. So let's go ahead, go back. Let's go to upload. And now it looks like we can actually like upload some files. So I've been playing around with this, so you might actually see, you know, some files that I've tried out just to see how it works. So let's go ahead and we're going to go, actually before we even do that, let's go into this file. And let's see, it says that it needs to select an image. So that makes me think we need to create a JPEG file or a PD or, well, yeah, let's just go with a JPEG file. So let's go echo test into test.jpg. See if that gets uploaded. And surely enough, it does. Now let's see if we can upload a PHP file. So we'll echo test into test.php. And that one won't upload. Also, let me take this away. I didn't realize that I had that up. So it looks like it is doing some sanitation there, or sanitization. And, you know, that's good. However, we can see if we can try to like bypass it. There's a few ways of how we can try to do this. So to get more comfortable with Burp Suite, let's go ahead and open up Burp Suite. So we're starting that up. And what we're going to do with Burp Suite is we're actually going to inspect the traffic going in, anything, and what is in target scope. You don't have to do that. I just do it out of habit. I don't want to update it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try to upload test PHP. We need to set our proxy to the manual, so you need to set it to your local host. I have it set at port 8080. You can go into your options and you'll have the proxy listeners. You should have the interface already there. If you don't, just add it. And now we can go ahead and hit click upload. And it doesn't look like it caught it. Weird. We have that set. Let's try turning it on, turn it back off. Interesting. So it doesn't want to load. Maybe if I take and off. Oh, there we go. So it didn't like the and what is in the target scope. It must be because it wasn't in the target scope yet. Not sure. So now we're getting there. So now we can forward that. So now let's go ahead and browse, upload the test PHP. Now I'm going to see if we can actually do something else. So notice how the file name, it says PHP. So and notice how it says the application xphp, and here's the contents of it, right? Misspelled test, but so now let's go ahead, let's forward that, and it doesn't do it. Now let's try it again with JPEG, see what's the difference. Okay, so notice how it says content type. So notice how that changed. So let's send this to the repeater. So if we send that, it says we get an OK. So we get that JPEG up. Now let's try with test PHP again. Upload. Let's send this to the repeater. So now what we're going to try to do is notice how it says test PHP. Let's take this, the image /JPEG, and copy. And let's switch this out. Now let's see what happens if we send it. So it looks like I'm not sure if that worked. So let's see what happens if we do that. So we'll copy this whole thing, put it in here, see what happens. And it didn't do anything. So now let's try it live. Notice how we're doing a bunch of like trial and error here. So we'll do image. Let me make sure it was image, not images. Image /JPEG. Let's see what happens. So file is not an image. So there's a couple things that we can do to kind of trick it. We can rename a PHP file as a JPEG file on our system, or we can try to rename it as it's going through the proxy. So let's go ahead and do the first one where we try to actually upload a PHP file disguised as a JPEG. So what we're going to do is we're going to locate shell.php, and we're going to do this web shell one right here. Then we're going to copy that to our local directory. So now we should have that. Okay, so let's open that up. And as you can see, we got a lot of comments here. But this is what we want. We want the IP. So hit Shift-I so that we can start inserting some values in there. We need to put our local IP, which is, for me, is 10.0.2.15. And I'm just going to leave the port. I don't think they would have any kind of like rules that disallow certain ports to be access on the machine. If they do, we'll figure that out. So hit escape, and then shift : WQ to save it. All right, and now we're going to clear that out. And now we have our PHP shell. However, remember, PHP can't get uploaded to this web server. So what we need to do now is we actually need to disguise it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to rename it on our own machine. So we'll do move, and then we'll do the PHP shell, and we'll call it, I'm going to call mine moosey.jpg. You don't have to call yours that, but that's what I'm calling mine. So remember, we have it on port 1234. So now let's go back and let's upload moosey.jpg, and let's take a look at the contents as it gets uploaded. Notice how it actually has all of our code. So it's not actually sanitizing or checking or validating any of the code within inside of the file. It's just looking at the file type. So let's go ahead and let's take all these comments out. You don't have to, but I'm doing it. Again, we're on port 1234. Let's go ahead and forward that. And it looks like we're good to go. Awesome. And it looks like it went to uploads.moosey. So now what we would need to do is we actually need to go to that directory. So there's a bunch of different ways of how we can do that. We're going to go ahead and assume that we are in the www directory, right? So if we were to think about that, if you go there, the www directory has a few different directories within inside of it. Please feel free to go and, look those up. However, for this, we're just going to go ahead and, I've done this box, so I already know where it's at. It's in the HTML directory. So what we have to do is we actually need to go back to our where we have the LFI and execute it there. And by execute, I mean we need to use the LFI to call the JPEG file. And I'm going to turn my proxy off because we're pretty much done with it at this point. Okay, so now what we'll do is we will go to then we go to var, right? www HTML uploads, and then we should have that moosey.jpg. And to show this happen in real time, or actually before we even do that, let's check to see what happens. Okay, so nothing happens there. That's okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go here. Let's go ahead and open up a horizontal terminal. We're going to curl that. And then we're going to do the netcat lmvp 1234. Listen, hit enter. And so what we've done is we've called to this URL, right? And here's the LFI right here. And then the LFI is calling from this directory and calling this JPEG file. And remember, it's just a JPEG file. So when the machine actually calls the JPEG file, it executes and tries to load whatever is in the file. And in this case, it was our malicious code because it didn't sanitize that malicious code. So now we're actually on the machine. So we have looks like a non-TTY shell. So let's see if we can do, something a little nicer. So I like to do the Python TTY shell. So it's Python -c, and then you do import pty semicolon. Oh, it's not going. Sorry. Python -c import pty semicolon pty dot spawn Okay. And then we're going to do bin sh, and that should do it. Actually, I realized I used a double quote here. Single quote. And it doesn't look like that really did it for us. Yeah, we still have a limited bash shell. So let's see. Does it have Python? It has Python. Oops, sorry. Okay, so let's try. Let's try Python 3. Taxi, import, pty. I'm getting all sorts of mixed up over here. Python 3, import. Oops. Gonna type a little slower. So we're doing the same thing, only we're gonna do spawn. We're gonna spawn a different type of shell. So we're actually going to do bin bash. Let's see if that does it for us. Oh, looks like it cut it out for me. Well, let's save this. It looks like it cut out our shell. Let's do a netcat lmvp 1 2 3 4. Okay, now we're back on. And there we go. So a little bit of a headache there, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to do what I always do the first thing in any CTF is I look for the TXT files. Because typically the user.txt and the root.txt are all said like they end with the txt extension. So what we're going to do now is we found, it looks like a password. So if we do a sudo tac-l to see what permissions we can run as sudo, we actually need to have the password for the user, which we don't have. So it looks like we're going to need to cat that out. So it looks like the password for the user is, for Basam, is that. Because we are www data right now, right? We do a ID and who am I? If I can type who am I? Right, we're www data. So let's go ahead and switch over to Basam. Enter that password. And now it looks like we're Basam. Yep, awesome. Cool. So typically for the user flag, it's typically on the desktop in the home directory of the user. So let's go ahead and go to home. Oh, we need to go to Basam. Oh, sorry. I completely overlooked it. Went too fast. We have the user.txt file right here, and we are currently in just the home directory of Basam. So now we can just do cat user.txt. I need to type slower. And there we go. So we have the user flag. Awesome. So now let's go ahead and see what we can do with sudo permissions. What was Basam's password? So it looks like we can do find. All right, so now we're going to go to GTFO bins. And we're going to see what we can do with find. So let's go ahead and we can just type into here. We can type find. All right, and let's go ahead and use the shell. Pretty simple, but we're going to actually need to run it as sudo. So let's go ahead and do this one. Okay. We ran that, and now we are root. Look at that. We ran ID, got root. Who am I? Root. Cat flag.txt. And we have the root flag. So awesome.